In this video, we're going to be checking out one very cool 2006 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, aka the LJ, belonging to my friend Chris King. Chris, tell me about this thing.
It's evolved a lot over probably 12 years. It started stock. I got it from the local dealership and eventually found an off-road shop and have been building it ever since. Still running the 4-liter, the inline, the straight 6. Haven't really done anything. Put a cold air intake on it under the hood. Transmission is still a standard 42 RLE. Had that rebuilt by ATS diesel. It's been rock hard ever since. Haven't had any problems with it.
Now, what transfer case do you have?
That's the 231. That's also still factory. Haven't done any upgrades to that. Haven't needed to.
Now, it does look like it's flat bellied on the bottom, so all that powertrain's tucked up. Did you have to do body lift or anything engine lift to get everything tucked up to have it so flat?
That took a lot of work. It was, the transmission tunnel has been massaged to get extra clearance. It's got a motor mount lift to help the drive line. Everything has been completely tucked up, and it wasn't easy, but it all made it work.
That's awesome. Now, drive shafts, obviously aftermarket. Do you go 1350, any particular style shaft?
Still have factory style draft with the 1310s. They're the easiest thing to replace if I ever break one on a trail. They're the easiest to carry. So I didn't want to go up with the hardcore drive shafts. I do have Adams drive shafts, which have been great. They have great service and they make a great product. And I know because I have beat on them a lot.
The axles are kind of interesting for this Jeep because Kristen and I have been buddies for a long time, and I can actually tell you a lot. I know exactly where these axles came from. It came from me years ago when I was still at JP Magazine. For people that remember magazines, I built a XJ and we put JK axles, really nice JK axles, essentially in it. And when that magazine sort of went away and I left all that, I started kind of pulling apart parts from that because that Jeep had some other problems. And those axles ended up coming to this Jeep. Now, quick refresher on that, I believe those were 513 differential gears.
Yes.
And they're ARB front and rear air lockers, chromoly shafts. Have you had to do anything else to those axles over the course of however many years?
I haven't had to do anything.
It's always really hard to tell, probably because I'm little too. This thing is very low. So you got kind of low lift, big tire. The suspension is all very custom on it too. Walk me through the suspension. Let's start up front.
It's not even, some say mid arms, some call them long arms.
Right.
They are actually JK length, DOM control arms up front, and just standard. I think the only thing special about it is everything is beefed up with the heavy duty mounts so that no matter what I beat them on, they're going to break a rock, not my mounts.
Right.
The Rubicon Express springs, the Bilstein 5100s, which are a good combo for both street and off-road. The rear suspension is unique. Everything is side mounted, inside or outside the frame rail, so that removes all of my dragging points. The only thing I will do is, with my low setup, I will just drag the frame rail. Triangulated the rear and just tucked everything up. It's still shock spring. I talked to lots of people about going coilovers, and I wanted coilovers for several years, but when I couldn't afford it, and I just keep making it work. I keep driving, following everybody with bigger tires and fancier coilovers, and I don't need them. So I've eventually got to the point where a good shock spring setup with my suspension just works.
What would you say lift coil wise you have? Is it like a 3.5, 4 inch coil? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I want to say they're about 3.5, maybe 3.5. I've got roughly 3 inches of lift overall.
Right.
I've got 18.5 inches of clearance at my lowest point on the belly, and my frame rails are clean. So if all I'll drag is a frame rail and I'll just go right over it.
Steering, you do have hydraulic assist, right? You got a PSC kit?
I do have PSC hydraulic assist. I fought it for years. I said, I don't need that.
Right.
And then I got it, and the first time I got on a rock and I needed to steer, and I was blown away by how easy it was.
All right, so let's get into maybe the big meat and potatoes here. You've got a 38 1350 Nitto Trail Grappler on KMC beadlock. So tell me why 38, how that's treated the Jeep, because 38's a big tire, period. What's your experience with this tire?
When I had 37s, and I'd love to go up to 40s, but it's similar to the coilovers where that'd be nice, but I don't have that 40-inch tire money. And 38s not only fit my budget, but they're roughly the same size as a 39 BFG without changing really any of the weight. There's, I think, a 1.5 pound difference. They fit the build, they fit the clearance issues that I had, and I've run them hard enough and long enough, both on the street and off-road, that it was a natural fit to go to 38s if I can follow people on 40s with them.
Right. So have you been happy? You've had these tires for what, a year now at least?
A little over a year.
Okay, yeah. Been pretty happy with them so far?
Absolutely. They've been to several off-road parks. You've been with me through some of them, and they work. I'm happy with the size. I'm happy with how quiet they are on the street. I've been passed with these tires by people in trucks with street tires that are louder.
Right. Yeah, it's insane. It's hard for people to, like when I tell them, like you can probably see just off camera, I've got my Gladiator on 40-inch trails right behind it. And it's nuts because you would look at a big tire like that and think, oh man, it's got to be loud. And then you go like riding, you're like, oh, this is insane, like how quiet it is for how aggressive it is.
For any mud terrain, regardless of size, to be this quiet, it's very unexpected.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Well, they look good, and now fitting a 38 with 3 inches lift, obviously we got to talk about some of the body armor on it because that's a big part of the clearance thing. What fenders do you have? Because obviously it's a high line to get a little bit more room.
I've got some Highline aluminum Genrite zero flare fenders up front. In the back, I've got also Genrite, but they're steel. With steel Genrite flares. I've got some aluminum I need to put on both for flares and corners. Very rare, possibly a one-off unicorn. I have LJ Off-Road Evolution sliders. They never officially made them on the website that I ever knew of, but I have a pair. And they're amazing. Rear bumper is a Genrite bumper plate. It's not much more than a reinforced cross member, but it keeps everything tucked up, keeps my exit angles very, very high. The only thing I have to worry about is hitting my gas tank skid, which is also well tested. Right. It's a Savvy gas tank skid, which because I have a body lift on this, it allows me to move it up an extra inch. So that gives me a little extra clearance coming off the rock. Front bumper is moto built with a stinger, stubby style where it's tucked in. You can see the Curry anti-rocks that I've got on there, which is great as part of the front steering, as part of the set it and forget it, and I don't have to worry about it on or off road. Moto build they build good stuff. It's tough, it's steel bumper, it's got stinger, which I've rubbed on a few things here and there.
Right. Okay, so we've basically covered armor. Let's talk a little bit more about the body. The hood, where did the hood come from? Because it's obviously not stock.
The hood was a knockoff of what I think Genrite was selling. It's aluminum. It's stupid lightweight. It's got a little venting up front, which doesn't interfere with the intake, and rain gets in it. Rain falls right back out of the engine bay. Doesn't cause any problems, and it's just extra weight reduction, which comes in handy. I just can't mount anything on it.
Right, understood. You do have, speaking of that, you got pod lights here. What bracket and light setup?
I've got a couple of mini, I believe they're the S2 Baja Designs. Spots, and they're small. I don't need the giant cubes that so many people have nowadays. I'm not a Baja racer. I don't need to light up something a mile down the road. I've got a Baja Designs 8-inch on the front, which is more of a spot flood combo in an amber, so I can be on the trail at night and turn on an amber light and turn my bright headlights off so I'm not blinding anybody. Let's
start with some of the interior upgrades. Seats, what seats do you have?
The Baja seats from Corbo with seat heaters installed. Put the seat heaters in, trust me. It's not always because you're old, it's not always because you're sore bouncing around, but if you've ever gone to the trail, you get up early and it's still cold on the mountain. Sure. Get the seat heaters. They do recline, but I have cage in there that prevents that. But they're a great seat, and they were so great that my wife also put them in her TJ.
Understood. Now, his wife's TJ, you can actually see on this channel as well. She has a manual transmission. I just love to throw that in there. TJ, that was her daily driver for many years. I will put a link to her feature right here. It's been quite a few years since I shot that thing. Very cool. This is a Jeep family for sure. So at this point in its stage, what is next? Like, what's the next punch list, or where do you want to go with it? Or are you at a point where you're just like, I'm just going to keep wheeling it till I need to go to a something next?
I have a few things lined up. I've got some, as I mentioned, aluminum armor for the rear and the flares. I'm going to upgrade the shocks. I'm probably going to go with a Radflow shock. I'm not sure exactly what setup I'm going to run yet, and corresponding springs to go with that. The driveline is, I'm not here to power. I don't need to go up sand dunes. I don't need to boogie 80 miles an hour down the interstate. So I don't need a big powertrain. It's got more than enough torque to take me with my 38's up whatever I need off-road. And I trailer it. So while it's turned into a bit of a trailer queen, I tend to go harder off-road. So I get the lighter weight armor. I don't really plan on, I'm not going to go to coilovers. I have no desire to go to 40s. My axles are great and they're strong, but they're still pretty much maxed out at the weight I'm at now. Because I'm longer and wider and low enough, everything equals out. Everything kind of shares the load off-road. Right. So I'm not abusing just the suspension. I'm not abusing just the lockers or just the tires. Having a nice, about a 3.5-inch stretch gave me the room to put coilovers, and then I never went to put coilovers on it. So I've got the stretch, I'm pushed back because they were JK axles and I'm running LJ beadlocks. I had to get adapters to keep my expensive KMC beadlocks, right, because beadlocks, I don't care what you get, they're not cheap. No. So the little bit wider JK axle helps. The little bit I get from a spacer helps, but I'm not running 1 tons, so I'm not sitting low, I'm not dragging all that extra weight. So I'm running a fairly light tire that's quiet on an axle that's lighter and still sits higher. So other than some lighter weight armor, I'm probably good with where I'm at.
That's rad. Well, I like it, and you'll probably see more of it on different adventures as we continue to wheel together, but I finally got them in the shop here, so I could, kind of go through this thing because I think it's a really cool build, and it's not like everybody else's. I mean, JK axles under Wrangler, TJ or LJ isn't breaking the mold, but having it low and smartly built and not on coilovers with a V8 and all that stuff really shows how well these things can work, and you don't need a crazy amount of things. You just need the right upgrades, and it really makes a difference. So if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. If you did like this video, actually like it because it absolutely helps. If you've got, want to see anything that we're working on or some behind the scenes stuff, you can check me out at all social media at Ollie Mansour Editor. As always, we appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully you will continue on this journey and subscribe to the channel. Do it. You ain't got nothing else to do. Come on, if you made it to the end of the video, you must have liked it at least a little bit, right?
At least a little bit.
All right, cool. Well, thanks. That's all for this video, and hope to see you on the trail. Take care.